Name.
Hristo Karagiozov,
Uni.
University of Groningen,
Year.
2022,
Course.
Artificial Intelligence.
So, what can you tell me about the mandatory prices for tuition and anything like that?
First year is 1,000 euros. Then for the rest of the years, that would be 2,000 euros with the options of doing half a year for half that sum.
And what can you tell me about the campuses, like number and a rough location within the city?
Campuses are all across the city. Campuses are split between the city center and the North Campus, which is called Zernike. It's dedicated to the Faculty of Science and Engineering, which covers most STEM bachelors.
And what about the accommodation options? How hard are they to find, and what sort of prices are people to expect for rent?
Unfortunately, accommodation is quite hard to find. A lot of people struggle finding accommodation for a very long time. Sometimes it can happen really quickly, but that's if you're lucky. Mostly you need a couple of months searching. Really depends on what's your background, really depends on where you come from, but generally there is a housing crisis currently. So I would say that it's really hard to find accommodation. As far as pricings go, I would say that 400 is the lower bar that you would expect in terms of accommodation, and 600 is the higher bar. But I've seen plenty of accommodation go for 700 euros a month and upwards of that.
Okay. Do you guys have a minimum attendance percentage as far as you're aware?
Not really. The beginning courses that we do for the first year, there is some mandatory attendance courses, but they're mostly to force you to socialize, which I find really nice. Because even if you don't attend many of the events or everything that the university provides for you as additional opportunities for socializing, even if you don't like any of these, you'll still be forced to work with some people you don't know, and you'll still be forced to attend certain things. But generally speaking, it's pretty minimal. It goes away after the first year.
On the topic of socializing, how are the extracurricular options?
Oh, they're great. They're absolutely fantastic. I can't recommend them enough. There is the student organization that I'm part of called Cover, which is the student organization for artificial intelligence and computer science. And Cover offers a great deal of socials almost every week. There's even sometimes some weeks where there are multiple socials. So I would say that the options are pretty nice. Even if you don't want to stick to your faculty, there you can branch out and look for other opportunities. I found it really pleasing.
If I go to ask you then now a little bit about the city in general, is there a lot to see and do? How is the nightlife? What can you tell me about the basic environment of the town?
For seeing and doing in terms of tourism, I don't think it's that fantastic, mainly because it's not a large city and you can cover everything there is to see in a day. But in terms of student life, I find it to be really nice because for me personally, it is the perfect mix between serenity and calm neighborhoods and multiple clubs and active, vibrant social life and night activities. Like there are a lot of bars, a lot of clubs, but there is something for everyone, I think. Even if you don't want to be part of any of these, there is really peaceful life that you can have in the neighborhood. But if you want the entertainment options, they're readily available, and there are plenty as well.
And if we ask about the prices of those sort of things, so on one side, stuff like food and the similar things in stores, but also beverages in bars and clubs. What can you tell me about those?
I would say prices, especially given the inflation, are pretty reasonable right now. I would need around 300 euros to cover amenities and food. In terms of going to bars and getting cocktails, it's also comparably good. I would say an average cocktail goes for around 7 to 8 euros. And then just going to the bars is not that expensive. Of course, unless you do it every night. But if you do it like once a week, I don't see how that increases the 300 euro mark by that much.
What can you tell me about moving around the city and public transport options and prices?
Yeah, well, as almost every city in the Netherlands, it has the huge benefits of having the Dutch bike infrastructure, which is just fantastic. Bikes provide everything you could ever need in terms of transportation around the city, as the bike lanes are everywhere. They're so well integrated that there's traffic lights for bikes. There are bike stands everywhere. So parking and moving around the city is really, really easy and convenient. Now, of course, many people I know prefer the option of public transport, especially during the winter when it's really cold to ride a bike. So I would say that if you choose the public transport option, it is pretty great from what I've heard. It's not that expensive. Otherwise, you could rent a bike for like 17 euros a month if you don't want to buy it. Because again, if you want to buy a bike, that's running the risk of getting stolen. Because I got my bike stolen. So yeah, you really need to weigh in the pros and cons and decide for yourself.
Are you going to tell me about the transport when it comes to coming into the city, maybe from a different country? What sort of time would that take you, and what are the options?
Generally speaking, the train system in the Netherlands is really well developed. So I would probably use either a train or a bus. I know that the Flixbus option is also pretty viable because I have some friends who came here from Germany and from here to Germany. So I know that in terms of prices and comfort, they're pretty comparable and also rather cheap, especially if you compare them to cars, of course.
Thank you very much. That was Christo from the University of Groningen.